My name is Guy Kawasaki. A little bit of my background. I work for Apple. I was Apple's software evangelist, so my job was to convince people to write Macintosh software. And then I started some software companies. I became a writer and a speaker, an author, and here I am in Mexico City. So today I talked about Enchantment, which is a book that I wrote a couple years ago. And I'll give you the basics of enchantment, and then we'll do some questions and answers, okay? So, first let me define enchantment. Enchantment is this process of influencing and persuading and changing people in terms of their hearts and minds and actions. I think it's very necessary for a business to enchant its customers, not to simply sell to them, not simply trying to create an exchange where people give you money and you give them something. That if you want to build a great company, a long-lasting company, and a profitable company, it takes more than that. It takes where your customers love what you do, they are tolerant of your mistakes because you will make mistakes, and they will buy upgrades, as Apple has proven. So there are three pillars of enchantment. The first pillar is that you and your company have to be likable, to be a person that they would look forward to seeing, that they would not avoid. And I think the start of great likability is a great smile. This great smile has two components. It's not just the jaw where you're sort of grinning and faking that you're happy. It's really the eyes where you're truly happy. And you actually want crow's feet. You want wrinkles around your eyes. So those of you who are thinking of plastic surgery or Botox, something like that, you can skip that. You actually want wrinkles. And so that's the great smile. You should always be defaulting to yes, meaning that as you meet new people, you should be thinking about how you can help them, how you can add to their lives, as opposed to what they can do for you, more like what you can do for them. The second pillar of great enchantment is trustworthiness, because you can like somebody but still not trust that person. You could like a celebrity but not trust the celebrity, for example. And trustworthiness, I think the key is that you have to understand there's a sequence of events here. So many people might say, well, do I trust the person and then the person trusts me? Or do I wait till they trust me and then I'll trust them? And there's a definite order, and the order is the burden, the onus, the pressure, the test is that you trust people before they trust you. And so they call it the onus. The onus is upon you to trust others, and they will come to trust you. So as a brand, as a company, you have to trust your customers, and then your customers will come to trust you. One of the concepts that I like to use is the concept of a baker versus an eater. So an eater sees the world as a zero-sum game where there's a pie, set size, and the eater tries to eat as much of the pie as fast as possible, because if the eater doesn't eat it, somebody else will eat it, and so that person is always worried somebody else is going to get the pie. A baker, by contrast, sees the world where it's not a zero-sum game, and I can bake more pies, I can bake bigger pies. Everybody can have a piece of pie. Bakers are much more trustworthy than eaters, so I encourage you to become a baker, not an eater. And the last component of great enchantment is quality, competence, credibility, where you have something great. I have tried to enchant people with great stuff, and I have tried to enchant people with crap, and it is a lot easier to enchant people with great stuff than crap. So let me tell you the qualities of great stuff. Great stuff is deep, lots of features, lots of functionality. When people buy your product or service, they don't run out of power. Great stuff is also intelligent. When you look at it, you say, wow, this company understood my pain. This company understood what I needed. They are intelligent. Great products and services are complete. It's the totality of it. If you're in the software business, for example, it's not simply the software. It's the software and the documentation and the technical support and the conferences and the webinars and the retailers and the resellers and the consultants. It's the totality of the software. The next letter is E. E stands for empowering. Great products and great services make people better, become more creative and more productive when you use Macintosh. And the last E is elegance. Great products and services. Somebody cared about the industrial design, the human interface. You can look at a product and say, somebody appreciated beauty. Somebody appreciated elegance and simplicity. So those are the 5 qualities of great products: deep, intelligent, complete, empowering, and elegant. So the 3 components of enchantment: you have to be likable, you have to be trustworthy, and you have to have great stuff. Great stuff. And that's, in 10 minutes, how to be enchanting. Thank you. So now we do Q&A? All right, let's do some Q&A. So any questions for me?
Which one
Okay.
are the key drivers of engagement?
I think the key drivers of enchantment are, as I said, likability, trustworthiness, and quality. And those are the 3 things. If you have those 3 things, I think that's 80% of the battle. Now, I've written an entire book about it, but that's the key. And I'll also tell you that achieving just those 3 things is not easy. It takes a lot of effort. But it really starts with, you respect your customer, you like your customer, you don't see your customer as merely a means to an end. If you look at Apple, for example, I think that Apple, of course, has great products. But the reason why people like and trust Apple is because of the Apple Store. So when you go into an Apple store and you see how beautiful it is, and there's not a lot of boxes all over the place and paper and just junk all over the place, and when you make an appointment with the Apple genius and the genius actually takes care of you, answers your question, fixes your problem, it builds trust and likability. Yes.
Mr. Kawasaki, hello. Can you tell us what companies enchant their customers?
Sure. So we need some examples of enchantment. Of course, I'll say Apple, right? I don't work for Apple anymore, but I think Apple enchants its customers. I think that Virgin America, Virgin Atlantic enchants its customers. That comes from the personality of the CEO. Richard Branson is a very enchanting person. I think Nike, to a great extent, enchants people. They stand for authentic athletic performance, but they have great products that, they empower you, right? They make you feel more athletic. Maybe you're not more athletic, but you at least feel like you're more athletic. That's 90% of the battle. So I would cite those 3 examples. I also love Google+. I think Google+ is a very enchanting social media site.
How do you maintain an entrepreneurial spirit in a big company?
Yeah. How do you maintain entrepreneurial spirit in a big company? I think the key is a little bit of paranoia, that in a big company, you should assume that there are 2 guys in a garage, 2 gals in a garage, a guy and a gal in a garage, or a dorm room, or a spare bedroom, or a small dumpy office that are trying to kill you. And they're going to create this product, this computer, this piece of software, this food, this restaurant, whatever it is. These 2 guys, 2 gals, gal and a guy, they're going to create this thing. They're not encumbered by all the crap you have and all the overhead you have and the install base you have. They can just do, starting from scratch, something great. And so you should always think that there are people like that in the world. And so if you're a large company, you cannot simply evolve things. You have to go and jump the curve every once in a while. I'll give you an example. If you were, most of you are too young to know this, but before laser printers, there was this thing called a daisy wheel printer, and it had this little ball on it, and you changed the ball to change the typeface and the size. So if you were the best daisy wheel printer company, you'd think, well, maybe I'll introduce more balls. I'll have Helvetica and 18 points next year. And so you introduce more and more balls. So that would be evolving the letter quality business. But if you want to revolutionize the letter quality business, then you go to the next curve, which is laser printer. And so many of us, think of the companies that were extremely successful in the daisy wheel letter quality printer business. It's hard to think of that. I mean, it's because most of those companies stayed in that business instead of getting to the laser printer curve. That's the key, is to get to the next curve. In the computer business, how many people have heard of National Cash Register or Remington Rand or Smith Corona? They were in the typewriter business. They didn't make it to the next curve, the personal computer business. So they or you or company should always be thinking, God, there's like Steve and Watt are in a garage and they're creating this personal computer that's going to kill my typewriter business. So maybe we should do the personal computer business first.
What would you say are the components of likability? Are there intuition? I mean, you can get likable by intuition or focus group, or what will be the component?
I don't think I'm not the big advocate of focus groups. I think likability starts at the very top of the company. That if the CEO expresses an attitude that customers are, things to sell to, customers are people to take their money from, that there is inherently no respect for the customer, I think it permeates the rest of the organization. And so I think it starts at the top, that you have to respect your customer. Even better, you have to love your customer, and you want your customer to love you and evangelize for you and tell the world about you. That's a much higher standard than simply let's close the sale.
Can a company that produce commodities enchant customers?
Yeah. So I think that any company can enchant customers, but you cannot believe you truly have a commodity, right? So deep in your heart, you may be in a commodities business, but you should believe that no matter what, it's not a commodity. I mean, maybe you sell sand, okay? So sand is, it's hard to differentiate sand, right? But somehow you have to believe that, so I can make sand sexy. I can make it sexy because we can deliver faster, or we can price it lower, or our sand is higher quality because we strain it better, or we clean it better. If you start off with the mentality that we're in a commodity business so we can only compete on price, you're defeated already. You have to believe in your heart that nothing is a commodity, and I think that would be the key. Okay? What else? Yes?
How can you get likability?
Likability is pretty simple. You have to treat people as if you want people basically to treat you the same way you would treat them. I mean, I think it's a very good test for much of business. Are you asking people to do something that you would not do? This, of course, assumes you're not some kind of psychopath. Okay, so assuming you're not a psychopath, if you're a pretty decent person, you should always be asking, are we asking our customers to do something we wouldn't do? And a very good example is CAPTCHA, right? So CAPTCHA, everybody's encountered CAPTCHA. You sign up for a website, they're asking you to, look at this thing that is incomprehensible and type it in, and you fail. Then it says, all right, so, here's another CAPTCHA, and here's another CAPTCHA, and, you keep trying, and after 5, you just give up, right? No site is worth that much effort to register. So, yeah, I'd like to ask the CEO of that company who puts up that CAPTCHA system, are you telling me that if you were going to register for a site, that you would go through trying to put in CAPTCHA 5 times and fail? Are you telling me that you wouldn't mind this, so you think your customers wouldn't mind this? Because there is no way that most people would put up with that. So why are you asking your potential customers to put up with that? So I think that's the very good test.
I work in an FMCG company. We produce chocolates, baby milk,
Yeah.
baby food,
Yeah.
so you might as well know the brand. But how do you go from a brand or a person that has no enchantment at all and not the willingness to be enchanting, which is the hard part of the question, how do you go from mindset A to mindset B? Is knowing that you need to be enchanting.
Maybe you need to change company.
And which would be the worst or your least enchanting brand ever?
Well, it sort of goes back to the question of a commodity, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, something like chocolate, you've got to believe in your heart that your chocolate is enchanting. And now maybe if it isn't, so you should fix the chocolate first, right? Because if your chocolate sucks, it sucks. But if your chocolate doesn't suck, I mean, chocolate stands for happiness and joy and, you know, I don't know, what could be more enchanting than candy? So it's a mindset. And part of it is, you know, you have to believe that, I don't know, Godiva or something is going to out-enchant you, and that's the competition, or, you know, that's what it takes in that business. If you're in the jewelry business, or in the clothing business, or in the food business, or in the in the candy business, you have to be thinking about enchantment. I mean, nobody buys a candy because it's cheaper per pound, right? Because candies is not simply a way of getting calories into your body. Candy is a way of making you happy. So, you know, how can you have like a dismal candy? I mean, it's an oxymoron. Right? So, it's a matter of perspective.
Do you think that the leader, the CEO, needs to be enchanting, or can you have just a manager, kind of managerial CEO?
I'll tell you, it sure helps if the CEO at the top is enchanting. Right now, there's one obvious example. Right? Okay, so let's look at the 3 pillars vis-a-vis Apple. All right? So, quality, no question. We all agree. Apple had great stuff, right? So then, was Steve Jobs likable and trustworthy? Not so good. That's debatable, right? Some people. Now, I will tell you, though, that other than 2 million people in the world who follow Silicon Valley and tech and Apple and all that, you know, they heard about how he's a difficult person to work for, et cetera, right? So that's true. But on the other hand, I think for many people, Apple is the Apple Store and the Apple website. And when you go into that Apple stores, is there Apple stores, like a lot of them here? Like more than one? Yeah, there must be a lot, right? 22 million people. You must have 22 stores. So when you go to an Apple store, it's a different experience than most retailers. Yeah, it's completely different than a big box electronics store. So it's a different feeling. The people there are enthusiastic. They like their products. You can tell they kind of like people. My son worked at an Apple store, you know. And so they like the product. They like the people. And again, you know, they're very trustworthy. I mean, sometimes if you take in a cracked iPhone and you give them a sad story, they'll just fix the glass for you, right? I mean, you know, I don't think it's just me that happened to. So, and when the genius tells you you need something, you really do need it. The genius is not trying to make a buck by selling you some piece of software or some upgrade. Right? So I think much of the image of Apple is because of the Apple Store, the Apple website, which is beautiful and well done, and the Apple quality. So it is not absolutely necessary that, you know, every company has a Richard Branson running it, but it sure helps. It definitely makes it easier.
What do you most admire in a leader?
What do I most admire in a leader? It would be a person who is willing to do whatever it takes. I don't mean that in an unethical way, because there are a lot of leaders who are willing to do that. But I think in a business leader, I want someone who would not ask his employee, his customer, or his vendor, or her customer, her employee or her vendor, to do something that she or he would not do. So, you know, if you, let's say you're based in San Francisco, but you have a lot of business in Mumbai. You know, if you say, all right, so when I fly to Mumbai as a CEO, I fly first class. But when you, as an employee, you fly coach. That's just wrong. If you wouldn't fly coach, you shouldn't ask your employee to fly coach. So maybe you meet in the middle. Everybody flies business class, okay? So it's that kind of thing. The leader should be willing to do the dirty job, to do the work, and never ask people to do something that they themselves would not do. That would be the key for me. In political leader, I think a political leader has to be open, has to be transparent, has to be credible, not changing his or her story all the time, and has to be someone who by default trusts people, and someone who can accept people for what they are, no matter what race, creed, color, gender, sexual orientation.
Which are the key drivers to reach like entrepreneurship?
What are the key drivers?
Yep.
Okay.
And the other one is that, do you think that the entrepreneurs are made or they are born?
Okay. Second question first. I think entrepreneurs are made, not born. And no, there are some who are born, but I think anybody could be an entrepreneur. Then what it takes is you have to fall in love with something. You have to fall in love with a product or service or something. And if entrepreneurs, the only successful entrepreneurs are the ones that are born, there would be a lot less entrepreneurs in this world. I think sometimes entrepreneurship is even thrust upon you, that you're laid off or you're unemployed. If you look at, this is my socioeconomic analysis of America. If you look at America, the great entrepreneurs were immigrants, right? So they couldn't succeed for whatever reason in their home country, so they came to America. Absolutely no sort of advantages, except they were willing to work hard. And so I think that's the key, that anybody can be an entrepreneur. It's not something that you're born with. Although, as I said, there are people who are born like that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.